Hi everyone, welcome back to Hein Academy, and in this video I'm going over adding and subtracting fractions. So in order to add and subtract fractions, we need to find the common denominator of those two fractions in order to add or subtract the numerators. So in these four examples, we don't have the common denominator, so first of all, we will need to find the common denominator in each of them. So let's start with the problem 1. So it is 2 by 5 plus 4 by 15. And so in order to find the common denominator, we will need to figure out the multiples of 5 and 15. So for multiples of 5, it will be 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15, 5 times 4 is 20, and for 15 times 1 is 15, 15 times 2 is 30, 15 times 3 is 45. Now let's stop for a moment and see if we have any common denominator that we can find. So for 5, we have 5, 10, 15, 20. And for 15, we have 15, 30, 45. There we go. So we have common denominator of 15 for 5 and 15. So now we can turn the denominator into 15. So since we have 15 is already at the denominator of this fraction, we no longer need to adjust to this fraction. And so for the first fraction, we will be writing it as 5 times 3 is 15, and since we're multiplying the denominator by 3, we also need to multiply by 3 to the numerator so that the fraction is still balanced, plus 4 by 15. And the next step is 3 times 2 is 6, and 5 times 3 is 15, plus 4 by 15. And now, since we have common denominator for two fractions, we can add the numerators. So the denominator is still 15, and the numerator 6 plus 4 is 10. Now we have a new fraction, which is 10 by 15. So for 10 and 15, we have a common factor of 5. So 10 and 15 are both divisible by 5, and therefore we can divide by 5. So 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15. So 2/3 is the simplified fraction of 10 by 15. And for 2 and 3, we cannot divide by any number but 1. So this fraction is the simpler form of the result. So I hope it makes sense. And now let's go to second example so that it can help you understand more about finding common denominator and adding and subtracting the fractions. So now we are subtracting the fractions, but either adding or subtracting fractions, the concept is the same. We have to find the common denominators and then either add or subtract the numerators. Now we have subtraction here. So 6 by 7 minus 1 by 2. We need to find the common denominator between 2 and 17. So how about let's write down the multiples of 2 and 7. So for 2, it will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, so on. And for 7, we have 7 times 1, 7, 7 times 2 is 14, 7 times 3 is 21, and 7 times 4, 28, and so on. So right now, when you look at the multiples of 2, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Multiples of 7 are 7, 14, 21, 28. So once we scroll to the right, we have a common denominator of 14 that we can adjust the fractions to. So now we are turning the denominator into 14. So in order to make the denominator 14, we have to multiply by 2 to the current denominator. So it would be 7 by 2, 7 multiplied 2, and that would turn it into 14. And for numerator, we are multiplying it by 2 as well, so that it is balanced. Or if you simplify 2 and 2, you will get the same original fraction of 6 by 7. So we're good. And now subtract, we have half here. So the denominator, we have 2 here. In order to turn it into 14, we have to multiply it by 7. So for numerator, we have 1, and we will multiply it by 7 so that the fraction is still balanced if you cancel 7 and 7. So we have the original fraction of half, so we're good. So 6 times 2, 12, and 7 times 2 is 14, and minus 7 times 2 is 14, and 7 times 1 is 7. And now we have the common denominator of 14, so we can either add or subtract the fractions. And in this case, we are subtracting 12 minus 7, so that will be 5 by 14. For 5 and 14, none of them are divisible by anything except 1. So this is the simplified fraction. Okay, let's move on to question number 3, which is 1/3 plus 3 by 8. So 1/3 plus 3 by 8. Let's check if it is exactly the same. 1/3 plus 3 by 8. And so again, we don't have the common denominator right now, so we will have to turn it into a common denominator so that we can add the fractions. So the first one is 3 and the second one is 8. So let's write down the multiples of 3. So that will be 3 times 1, 3, 3 times 2, 6, 3 times 3, 9, 3 times 4, 12, 3 times 5, 15, 3 times 6, 18, 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 times 7 is 21, and 3 times, that will be 24, and 3 times 27, and then 30, right? 3 times 1, 2, 3 times 10 is 30. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, and so on. And for 8, multiples of 8 would be 8 times 1, 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 would be 24, 8 times 4, 32, 8 times 5 is 40. And let's stop right here and find the common denominator of 3 and 8. So let's go to the right and see if we have the common denominator. 3, 6, we can't find anything right now. 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. Oh, hold on. So we have 24 here and we have 24 here. So that's the common denominator that we can adjust the fractions into for the denominator so that we can add these fractions. So for 1/3, we will write 1/3 times, in order to turn denominator into 24, we will be multiplying it by 8, right? 8 times 3 is 24, so we will be multiplying to the numerator by 8 as well. And plus, that will be 3 by 8, and for 8, we need to multiply it by 3 in order to make it 24. So the numerator has to be multiplied by 3 as well, so that the fraction will be balanced and it will be the same as the original fraction. So now we will be solving one by one. So 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 times 1 is 8, and plus 3 times 3 is 9, and 8 times 3 is 24. And now we can add the fractions now because we have the common denominator and the denominators are equal. So we can add them now. So the denominator is 24 and numerator is 8 plus 9, 17. For 17 and 24, there is no common factor apart from 1. Because 17 times 2, if you multiply it out, that will be 14. 2 times 1 is 1, that will be 34. So it is not divisible by 17. So that's it. So 17 by 24 is the simplest fraction for question number 3. And now let's move on to question 4. That will be half minus 2 by 5. Okay, half minus 2 by 5. So here, again, we don't have the common denominator, so we will need to adjust the denominator and multiply it by some number so that we have the common denominator. So let's write down the multiple of 2 and 5. So for 2, we will be writing multiples of 2. That will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and so on. And for 5, the multiples of 5 will be 5 times 1. For multiples of 5, we have 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3, 15, 5 times 4 is 20, and let's stop right there. And let's find a common denominator between 2 and 5. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We have 10 here, and 2, 5, 10. So we have 10 here. So 10 is the common denominator of 2 and 5. So let's write it here. 2. So in order to turn the denominator as 10, we will be multiplying it by 5. Then we will be multiplying numerator by 5 as well, so that we still have the original fraction. And minus 2 by 5. In order to make the denominator 10, we will be multiplying it by 2 for numerator and denominator. And now the next step will be 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, minus 2 times 2 is 4, and 5 times 2 is 10. And now we have common denominator right now, so we can write it as 10, and then 5 minus 4 is 1. And this is the simplest fraction here, because 1 by 10 can no longer be simplified into any simplified fraction, because 1 and 10, they are only divisible by 1. So that's it. I hope it helps, and let me know in the comments below if you have any other questions on adding and subtracting fractions. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and make sure you click subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can get updates on new math videos just like this. Thank you for your time, and see you in the next one.